Coming up next on Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable, fallout continues over the lack of death benefits for many of those killed fighting the Yarnell Hill fire. The Justice Department files suit to block the proposed merger between U.S. Airways and American Airlines. And is Arizona's Speaker of the House looking at a run for the state's first congressional district? Those stories and more next on the Journalists Roundtable.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon's Journalists Roundtable. I'm Ted Simons. Joining me tonight are Jim Small of the Arizona Capital-Times, Mike Sunnix of the Phoenix Business Journal, and Luigi Del Puerto of the Arizona Capital-Times. Arizona lawmakers still not amused at the administration's denial of disaster aid for the Yarnell Hill fire. Jim, we're talking not fighting the fire because the feds did kind of have a grant situation in there. But as far as insuring places, people who didn't have insurance, rebuilding their homes, feds said, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, the feds basically said that the severity of the fire and the damage that it caused, to the town of Yarnell and the surrounding areas wasn't enough really to meet the criteria that they need to provide federal emergency aid. State lawmakers and the governor, all expressed their dissatisfaction with the ruling. There's certainly a political unity of some sort involved in trying to get this federal aid, and they're setting about appealing it. House Speaker Andy Tobin and House Minority Leader Chad Campbell, who oftentimes are at loggerheads and don't necessarily see eye to eye on a lot of issues, jointly, put out a joint statement saying that the federal government needs to reconsider its stance, and they sent a letter to FEMA, asking for exactly that.
FEMA basically saying that state and local governments, charities, the region, the area, the local folks can take care of it. We're not needed.
Yeah, that's their argument. Obviously, folks here disagree. Senator McCain is upset. He said he got a lot of assurances, alluded to the vice president who came out for the funeral for the firefighters, making some assurances. I think there's a couple things at play here. They only asked for a couple $1 million for this. That's a drop in the bucket, of course, for FEMA's budget. The damage of the fire was minor, but the perception of the fire is that it was severe because of the horrible fatalities of the firefighters. So there's this kind of maybe disconnect about the damages and what FEMA could do and what actually happened with the fire and, of course, the horrible things that happened.
It's interesting, and we'll talk about this in a second, but FEMA is looking at spending far less than the city of Prescott would spend for death benefits for some of those firefighters. Yet, the feds are basically saying you can take care of this. Good luck.
Yeah, I was looking at when was the last time that FEMA had actually declared a major disaster for Arizona. It was in 2010 when we had the flooding up in the north. And after that, all the fires that we have had, they had declared an incident management, which basically says that they will help. And they had helped in putting out the fire. But they haven't since declared a major disaster statement or announcement, declaration for fires. And yes, you're right. This is a small money or a small sum that we're talking about. But in their letter to the president and FEMA, Mr. Tobin and Mr. Campbell basically said, look, it's 6,000 acres that were destroyed. It's 20% of homes that were destroyed. More than 100 homes or so that were destroyed by the fire. More than 2 dozen or so that have minor problems as well. So even though it may seem small, for this small community, it is a huge thing. And of course the fact that we had 19 firefighters dying, of course they're saying that just adds, to the gravity of this incident.
There's a lot of partisan and kind of regional and community type, overtones and undertones here. Obviously, the Obama administration is Democratic. McCain and the governor and Flake are all Republicans. We've obviously, all the issues the state has had with the administration. There's also the argument that FEMA and the administration maybe favor certain types of communities, bigger cities, than the rural folks. It's been a debate that's been going on in Congress for a little bit that they'll throw tons of money, Sandy, hurricanes, things back east, throw tons of money at that. How much are they spending there? And then you have these smaller things out west in rural areas that they're not as maybe aggressive on.
And you mentioned partisanship. I know some Democrats and some critics of what the state is doing, they're crying hypocrisy here. They're saying you want the federal government off the back, you want to say no to the federal, stay out of our way, don't tread on me, and yet for $2 million you're raising a big fit over this. That's what some critics are saying out there, and a lot of folks agree with them.
Well, yeah, and certainly, far be it from anybody to abstain from making a political point over a tragedy. That seems to be kind of kind of the way things go nowadays, and but at a certain point, kind of all politics is local, and that's what we're seeing. I mean, this is Andy Tobin's district, so he's got a stake in it. Mike kind of talked about the partisanship issues between McCain and Flake and Obama, and so you have a lot of this. But at the same time, you do have Democrats here who, while they may have some of their own political interests as well, but who do see a value in pushing for, trying to get the federal government to do it, and if the federal government won't do it, in saying that, look, the state should just step up and pay this money itself. We can find the money somewhere in our budget. We've got a $10 billion budget. We can find $2 million.
Will the state do that, Luigi, do you think?
I think that's a question of the day, right? The widow of one of the firefighters who had died is essentially calling the governor, to call for a special session so that state benefits could be extended to all of the crew members who had died. And I talked to or communicated with Mr. Tobin this morning, and he said that may be a bit premature at this point. We want to have a firmer grasp of what would be the cost of this, the legality of retroactively extending benefits to those who had died. But obviously there are others who are eager to do it right away. Mr. Ruben Gallego, a representative from Phoenix, for example, basically said, hey, it's $2 million out of a $10 billion, $9 billion budget. It's a rounding error if you think of it. So he's pushing for it, and they're okay with a special session to do it. And
a special session also has been considered, as you mentioned, regarding benefits for some of the firefighters. 13 of the 19 firefighters who were seasonal, temporary, no-death benefits. Talk to us about this, because this is creating quite a divide, again, between some people who see the visual, if you will, but also understand that these folks did sign up for this.
Yeah, I mean, the folks up in Prescott, the government up there is really in a tough spot. This could cost them a lot of money. There's folks up there, making some dire predictions about the financial cost of this, but the flip side, obviously, is the human tragedy and the sympathy and empathy everybody has for the firefighters and their families. So I can't see the legislature not doing something on this. The local folks have a tougher time because they have, a budget constraints.
So what would the legislature do? What would it call for? I know Speaker Tobin, we had him on the show. He said he's drafting stuff as we speak. But are you talking full benefits for temporary, seasonal, all temporary, seasonal? What
Speaker Tobin's talking about doing is basically saying that any first responder who dies fighting a fire on state land would, whether they're full-time, part-time, doesn't matter, whatever their employment status is, they would get basically benefits equivalent to a full-time employee through the state's public safety retirement system, insurance, cash payments, things like that. They would qualify instantly for that by the fact that they're first responders and essentially they're heroes who sacrificed all in defense of the state. The real question becomes, when does the legislature tackle this? Do they tackle it now? Do they wait a month? Or do they wait until January? And no matter when they do it, it's all going to be retroactive to June 30th. So the issue is when does the legislature take it up? I mean, I think most people agree with Mike. I mean, the legislature will do something about this. They're going to find the way to do it. It's just when does it actually happen?
Yeah, it's just uncharted waters for them. It's such an isolated case that they're dealing with, and I think they still need to figure some of those things out. I don't think the local folks up there have the wherewithal financially to deal with that.
So basically what you're saying is, got to be a firefighter, have to lose your life fighting a fire on state land. If you're not an emergency responder, if you're a seasonal temporary worker in other aspects working on state land, not necessarily applying to you.
Well, right now we don't have the actual language of the bill, but I guess the idea is that to make it so that those who had died, and they would be first responders, and they had died in a state trust land, that they would get full benefits extended to them by the state through the public safety the public retirement system. And so that's essentially the idea. The contours of this one, we don't know yet. And that's one of the reasons why, we had talked to some legislators this morning and said, hey, what do you think of this one? And some of them said, yeah, on an emotional level, something has to be done. Now, just to be clear, all of them say something needs to be done. It's just that, when do we need to do it? Do we need to do it right away? There's some thought, and I'm sensing some hesitation from some lawmakers, because there's some thought that maybe the families are receiving or have received right now some lump sums, that may be enough for the moment to tide them over until the next regular session, when they can, and when presumably they would tackle this issue.
Well, and I think that the issue is that there's a concern that they don't want to rush into something legislate out of emotion. I mean, when you do things like that, that's a recipe for doing something maybe inadvertent or maybe writing it too broadly. And so, you know, to your question about as to who it's going to apply to, I think that's part of the debate that they're having right now, and that they're trying to get, you know, advice probably from the pension system to see who all this would cover. You know, if we go back to this date and we write the language like this, who's going to be included in it? Is it going to include groups or people that maybe it's not intended to? Is it going to have some kind of ramification? You know, where it's going to cost more than what's expected, and so I think that those are part of the discussions that are happening right now behind the scenes, and it's really just a matter of when they settle on something and then they take it to the legislators. When do they kind of get that agreement?
Yeah, we'll see if it's a narrow bill just for this group, or if people start throwing in, you know, police officers, National Guard, people at the border, those types of things. You know, it could be a can of worms and a lot of unintended consequences, policy-wise and, you know, money-wise, is the thing they're really worried about.
I think the key to this one would be to define it so narrowly that they would apply to, you know, in this particular case, the firefighters who had died. That would be the key to its success. Otherwise, you sort of open all sorts of cans, and then people would, you know, would push for everything and anything in there, and then at the end of the day, you may not have anything.
And we mentioned Speaker Tobin is working on this legislation. We had him again on the show this week talking about that, and we find out that maybe he's nosing around there for Congressional District 1. First of all, is he nosing around for Congressional District 1?
He's nosed around for Congressional District 1 and other congressional districts a number of times now. So he has political aspirations. He's looking at running up there in that district. Ann Kirkpatrick's a Democrat. It's a swing district, and a Republican would have a chance. But and this would be the time, because she won. She lost to Gosar. She won this new district. This would be the time to kind of take her on. I think he's taking a serious look at it. He's got some political chops.
Would he stay Speaker?
Well, he would stay a Speaker. That's very clear. We spoke with someone very close to him, and our source essentially said, yeah, the Speaker will stay on as Speaker. So those who are wanting to succeed him, you can wait another year. It's not going to happen next year. He will stay on as Speaker. I think they probably see some benefits for him staying a Speaker. You do have that sort of minor bully pulpit with which to push your message as Speaker. So there's that. And yes, he has been fielding calls in that district and trying to see if he has the support in that district. There are a couple of things that they have to go through. They have to make sure that his family is okay with it. He does have a business and a business partner. They have to, you know, square that away with his business partner. And then there are other things. For example, does he move physically to the new district, since he's not in CD1, he's actually in CD4? So does that mean that he would move to CD1 and reside there? So those are questions that they're going through right now. But we are expecting something either by the end of this month or early next month.
That's a challenge in that district for Republicans. Has the Navajo Nation that put Kirkpatrick over the top in a close race last time. She has name ID. She's a pretty moderate Democrat, not overly partisan. Has taken some stances against the administration on some things out there. So she's a kind of middle of the road, kind of an old time blue dog Democrat maybe, and he's moving in there. So that's a challenge.
All right. It sounds as though the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has gone ahead and said, Andrew Thomas, Lisa Aubuchon, you are not immune from prosecution as in your duties as prosecutors, because it sounds like the Ninth Circuit said when you filed that civil racketeering suit against everyone and their brother, you weren't acting as prosecutors. You were acting in a political manner. Yeah,
that's been then Thomas and Aubuchon's argument all along. You know, throughout their disbarment and all the ethics hearings, and now this, that we were acting as in the county prosecutor's office. So we were acting in that capacity. So we can't be sued over this thing. It's another setback for Thomas, and it's probably another setback for his gubernatorial aspirations.
Well, what do you make of this, Guba? I mean, we mention every time we mention candidates for governor, we have to mention Andrew Thomas. He's one of the few that's actually gone out there and said, I am running. If he's liable for some of these lawsuits, goodness gracious, what does that do to a campaign?
Well, I mean, I don't think it dissuades any of the people who already support him. I mean, he's got people that are still ardent supporters of his. After everything that's happened, after the disbarment, after the lawsuits, after the allegations, that, you know, I mean, just after the whole thing, and they support him lock, stock, and barrel, and they're going to support him. But in terms of what it means for the broader electorate, I think this is just another, you know, another thing. I don't know. You know, I guess another black mark on him as a potential candidate. I mean, I don't. No one in the Republican establishment certainly takes him seriously as a candidate. but that doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, we've seen time and time again where the Republican establishment chooses their person, and the upstart or the underdog comes in and wins. But his challenge really at this point is to make sure he gets on the ballot so he can actually be further considered in these conversations about gubernatorial candidates. And
has he responded to this Ninth Circuit decision yet? Have we seen anything Facebooky, Twitter?
Yeah, he posted a statement on Facebook where he claimed he was railroaded, claimed that this was yet another example of judicial corruption, and listed a series of decisions that the Ninth Circuit, which issued this ruling, that the Ninth Circuit has issued in recent years that he disagrees with, and some of which have been either upheld by the Supreme Court or the Supreme Court has not overturned the Ninth Circuit on, and said that as governor of Arizona, a state official, he will work to reform the judiciary, apparently in San Francisco, in the federal Ninth Circuit. So it's a little unclear in terms of how that would happen,
yes.
but that was he held up this ruling and the past ruling from the Ninth Circuit as judicial corruption that he would work.
But does that indicate the fact that this is such an ideological campaign that a potential governor of Arizona is going to somehow impact the federal judiciary? I mean, are we just talking about simple, straightforward ideology? Everything else get out of the way?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a guy like Thomas, a candidate like Thomas, is effective when he's dealing with issues that he maybe appeals to folks on, to the Republican base here in Arizona. When he's talking about immigration, illegal immigration, those types of things, he's been effective. When he's been talking about himself, he has to talk about himself and these charges. It happened to him in kind of both AG runs, which he lost. When we're dealing with that, when we're conservative or an ideologue like that, I think they lose their muster, their juice.
All right, Luigi, it sounds like independent elections for Phoenix and Tucson. First of all, explain what was going on here, because the legislature wanted those things to be on the ballot for the generals, and the cities are saying, we'll get lost on these ballots, and they fought it, and they kind of won, didn't they?
They did win. The court essentially said that the city of Tucson and Phoenix, now it's only the cities of Tucson and Phoenix that can hold their elections whenever they want, because they're chartered governments, and therefore they can decide when to hold their elections. And that's basically what allowed them to not skirt, but not have to follow the law. This law was adopted a few years ago. It was meant to consolidate elections with the general election. Among the reasons for it is that supposedly it would increase the number of people who would go to the ballots and actually vote in these elections. And typically, municipal elections are low turnout elections. Another reason is that supposedly by consolidating the elections, we would save on costs, because obviously, if you're not having to, have these elections in other years, then you're saving money. But the court basically said, well, we're not so sure about whether this would actually save money. We're not so sure about the fact that it might increase voter participation, but we're not so sure about that. And the court also mentioned that the length of the ballot that would be created by consolidating these elections could be a disservice, in fact, to voters who may fill up the first 1-2 pages, but not the 6 or 7 pages. I do remember Linda Gray, who fought against this law, bringing up sample ballot with 5-6 pages and saying, this is what we have right now. You're going to add a few more pages to this one.
So basically, the idea of doing this is to get more people to participate, and the judge is saying the ballot could be so long, you could have fewer people actually voting.
That is exactly what the judge ruled. And he said, look, if you look in Maricopa County, the last election, the last general election, with judge retention, ballot propositions, federal candidates, all of the stuff that's already on there, county, you already had a ballot that was 200 items long. And so if you're going to add more onto the bottom of that, we've already got voter fatigue. You can already see it as you go down the ballot, that fewer and fewer ballots or votes are cast. The further, the deeper you get into that ballot. And the judge said there's no way to guarantee that this will actually increase voter turnout. This may have an unintended effect of actually having fewer people vote in it, because they're going to get tired, and they're just going to say, you know what, I'm done voting. I got halfway through it. I'm going to send my ballot.
Well, there's folks that argue that it's going to make it more partisan, because you have all these partisan races, in presidential and even number years. City elections are supposed to be nonpartisan. They not always are, as we witnessed by the city of Phoenix the past few cycles. If folks want to change the elections in Phoenix or Tucson, they can change the charter. They can elect mayors and council members that'll help change the charter. They can take it to the voters and change it that way. So it's not like the door is totally closed. And it comes back down to this frequent fight between the state legislature
Right.
and big cities, and it is part of that too.
And basically, the judge, there was a constitutional aspect to this, but did the judge even mention that?
Well, the judge basically punted on it and said he's not going to rule on it. You know, that was one of the things that Tucson and Phoenix had argued, was that this was unconstitutional because the Constitution grants charter cities
Yes.
the ability to govern themselves more, have more control over how they're governed, and you know they had a constitutional ruling on a case on a law from a few years ago that involved Tucson elections and changing the way that those are conducted, and the court said no, this is not. You can't do this. This goes against the charter government system. And so that was one of the arguments put forward. And the judge essentially said, no, I'm not going to weigh in on that. So that's why it only applies to Tucson and Phoenix. And he didn't enjoin the law for every other city.
Indeed. All right. Luigi, who is Representative Bob Thorpe, and why does he keep stepping in it?
He's a representative from the northern part of the state. He's a first-term legislator, if I'm not mistaken. He's considered to be more ideologically driven, more Tea Party type of candidate. He's waded into other controversies before. During the session, he had written a letter to all the House members and staffers, basically saying or complaining about support for or the push for Medicaid expansion, and he had listed down the specific names of colleagues that he thought were supportive of the proposal, the governor's proposal, and he was, and Mr. Tobin essentially said, no, you can't do that. So he's a freshman, he's not exactly immune to controversy, he's done it before, and now it seems like he's done it again.
Yeah, he did it because of some tweets, racially insensitive tweets, correct?
Yeah, the Justice Department, Eric Holder, issued some executive orders, the administration did, to kind of lessen drug penalties, to have less jail time for nonviolent drug offenders. And Mr. Thorpe tweeted that, well, that policy will help African Americans. Mr. Holder is African American, that's his motivation. And race is a big part of the drug war. African American males, African Americans make up a widely disproportionate amount of the folks arrested for drug crimes, convicted of drug crimes, imprisoned for drug crimes. There's been a lot of studies on disparate treatment between whites and Hispanics and African Americans in drug sentencing, in drug laws. So race is an issue there. Mr. Thorpe took a rather insensitive approach to that and drew a connection between the race of the Attorney General and folks that the change in policy might benefit.
And that's not all. There's a rodeo clown involved here as well?
Yeah, there was another tweet that was sent out the same day. This is, mind you, a few days ago, that essentially expressed support for the, I think he characterized it as a crowd-pleasing rodeo clown at the Missouri State Fair that was dressed up in a mask of President Obama that had become, kind of, Missouri State Fair Board said that wasn't a good thing, and they disciplined the rodeo clown, sent them all to sensitivity training, and fired one of the clowns and gave him a lifetime ban. So he expressed support for that, and the result was that Democrats and liberals in Arizona, once they saw those tweets, started making hay with it publicly and getting into Twitter discussions with him over Twitter about it, and he was defending it, and eventually he decided, I've had enough of this, I'm going to go ahead and lock my account, make it private, and I'm going to start blocking liberals and members of the media from even viewing my account. So that all happened in the span of about 4 hours.
And there wasn't one of those apologies that kind of reads, to anyone who was offended, I'm sorry, as opposed to just a blanket apology.
Yeah, I think he said he took down the tweets so that they weren't misunderstood. A lot of conservatives have glommed onto this Obama clown as a free speech thing, a little political satire and parody, and Mr. Thorpe did that, but it was accompanied by those Justice Department tweets also.
And this is the same man who invited a body armor salesman to the legislature to do like a demonstration? Is that the idea?
Yeah, during the session when they were talking about ways to ensure school safety, one of his ideas was that, hey, if we're talking about school safety, we might as well talk about safety here in the state legislature. It is an open body. Anybody can come in. And while both chambers actually have rules that say you cannot bring in a gun into the chamber, I mean, no one's really checking that. They don't have metal detectors and what have you. So he said, let's have a bulletproof vest party in the House basement, and quickly aborted the idea after he
Okay.
got a couple of criticisms over that.
A bulletproof vest party. We'll stop it right there. Gentlemen, good stuff. Thanks so much for joining us. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you for joining us. You have a great weekend.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.